o'clock. Would you like to welcome
Yes,
Professor
yes.
Rose?
Is Rabbi or Rose, are you with us?
Rabbi, Dr.
I
Professor.
am indeed. Hineni.
Welcome. So nice to see you here.
You too. Thank you.
Welcome so much to our Psalms class. And I want to introduce everybody. This is Rabbi Or Rose, who is on the faculty of Boston Hebrew College Rabbinical School. Some of our former interns are graduates of that school. Ari Lev Fornari, some of you remember Ari Lev he was a little bit while ago. More recently, Margot Meitner was from Boston Hebrew College, and Ayalon Eliach is I think our most recent one from Boston Hebrew College Rabbinical School. And as I mentioned to all of us, Rabbi Or Rose is leading a very interesting project about Psalms. So after we are led in with music, I've asked him to describe to all of us what his project is. I thought our group would be really interested in hearing about it. And then he's going to join us for our class this morning. Is Rabbi Jacob Nimi? Or Harold Levine is the TA of the class. And he is incredibly well-versed and organized, which is a fantastic combination in technology and in the Septuagint and in great emails. So he's keeping the whole class running smoothly. And we have different folks in the class who are musical, and somebody always starts the class with either a singing or a nigun or playing a musical instrument. So Jacob Nimi is a cantor in Madison, Wisconsin, where he joins us every morning from Madison. And he wrote this based on our study of Psalms. We're now finishing Psalm 5, but he wrote this based on Psalms, I think 3 and 4 or 2 and 3?
3 and 4.
3 and 4. So he wrote this, and so he introduced it to us last week, so we're gonna sing it again this morning, which is really beautiful, based on the study. And I don't know if Jacob, if you want to say anything about writing it before.
So I was just so drawn to a lot of the language in these two Psalms, and particularly a lot of parallel language of this idea of being laid down in peace and being raised up again, or rising up again, and then this idea of calling out to God and being answered. These really kind of a through line between Psalms 3 and 4 I found, and so I was really moved by it, and so I wrote this interpretation. And the line, lay me down in peace, for you alone, O God, keep me safe from harm, is basically a direct paraphrase of Psalm 4, verse 9. So. Lay me down in peace, lay me down in wholeness, for you alone, O God, keep me safe from harm. Lay me down in trust, lay me down in faithfulness, and let me not forget that you are with me. Koli al Adonai ekra, Vaya aneni mehar kodsho, Koli el Adonai ekra, Vaya aneni mehar kodsho. Lay me down in peace, lay me down in wholeness, for you alone, God, keep me safe from harm. Lay me down in trust, lay me down in faithfulness. Let me not forget that you are with me. Lay me down tonight, but don't lay me down alone. And when I call out, will you answer? Adonai ekra, vaya aneni mehar kocho Oni el Adonai ekra Vaya aneni mehar kocho Lay me down in gratitude for all that I still have and all that's yet to be. Lay me down in grace, lay me down in glory, and raise me up again for a new day. Holy Adonai Ekra, Vaya Aneni Mehar Kocho, Holy Adonai Ekra, Vaya Aneni Mehar Kocho, Holy Adonai Ekra, Vaya Aneni Mehar Kocho.
Jacob, thank you. Thank you. So beautiful. And it's so meaningful that it came out of our studying this together. And I do feel like it's, for me, it's, somebody mentioned in the chat, it's going to become a classic, and it for sure feels coming out of this moment of this pandemic environment and the, using this Jewish text as a source, really moving. So beautiful, Jacob.
Thank you.
Jacob, you posted a link to your recording is now up, and you posted a link on the Facebook page, correct?
Yes, I posted a link on the Facebook page. I also posted something on my personal Facebook timeline that has a little bit more in-depth explanation of what verses I cited and things like that. And that's in, I think, my comment to your comment, Harold. So if you look in the post, you'll find either you can access a couple of different ways.
All right, and so this is out in public, and we can put it on we can boost it on our own Facebook pages, right?
Sure.
Okay.
But using the recording of the SoundCloud recording, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Fantastic. So what I think I'd like to do this morning is ask Rabbi or Rose to tell us about his project. When I heard that they were actually, Sharon, the way this happened is that the president of Boston Hebrew College is my closest friend, Sharon Cohen-Anisfeld, whom many of you have met at CBST. She spoke a couple of years ago for Yom HaAtzmaut. You might remember, she was our darshanit for Yom HaAtzmaut. And she's the president of Boston Hebrew College, and she saw on my Facebook page that we were doing this Psalms class. So she let me know that under the direction of Rabbi Or Rose, they're doing a Psalms project as well during this time from a similar place, that this is the place we turn. So Or and I have spoken via email over the last couple of days, and I really wanted him to explain to everybody here about the project. And then maybe some of you can describe a little bit briefly what this has been like for you. And Harold, do we know how many weeks have we been doing this now as a class? Anybody know when we actually started?
40 is a good biblical number.
40.
I think this is at least the 8th, possibly the 9th week, I think.
8. So Stephen is saying the 8th week.
8th week.
Okay, so the 8th week. And some of you remember I had this idea we would do one Psalm a day. That's a joke. We are now closing on Psalm 5. Or wherever you are, let's find you and have you describe the project.
Good morning. Boker Tov, everyone. Thank you so much for giving me a few minutes to talk about this passion project. And I'm thrilled that I have found a group of fellow travelers, others that are working through the Psalms and doing so at an appropriate Jewish pace, one Psalm a month. Um, Jacob, you are now a part of this project, whether you want it to be or not. So let me describe it. As Sharon said, I teach at Hebrew College, and one course that is a staple in my rotation of courses is on Sefer Tehillim, on the Book of Psalms, and I co-teach it with a Catholic colleague from Boston College, which is just down the road. This spring, whether through Providence or some other natural means, it was time again for me and Andrew Davis to co-teach this course. And of course, we had to move online. And surprisingly, when we moved online, the course became richer. The conversation became deeper. People opened themselves in ways that are probably now familiar to you. And it was breathtaking. And so it dawned on me that the Book of Psalms were written for a season such as this, and that Jews and Christians and others have, in fact, created various kinds of rituals or ritual cycles involving Tehillim at different points of extremis. And so I started to reach out to friends and colleagues, and no one has yet said no. So we have 40 plus contributors. Ellen Davis wrote the introduction, which I think Sharon sent to all of you. It's a beautiful introduction by one of the world's great Bible scholars and social and environmental activists. And we have a whole slew of people. The latest person to commit is David Broza, the Israeli,
Just
rock
me
and
and nobody else here.
Hi. Can you hear me? Okay. Is David Broza. And the first time I heard David Broza, I was 10 years old in Winnipeg, Canada, at some kind of youth or university student event. So I sent him my 3 favorite Broza songs with a little bit of chutzpah saying, I think these would work particularly well, because he doesn't write on the Psalms. In any case, it's a really interesting mix of people. Jerry Grootman, whose writings you may know from the New York Times on health, who's a professor at Harvard Medical School, is writing a reflection on Psalm 6. I called him and I said, Jerry, you daven regularly. What does this mean to you now? What does it mean that you just reopen your lab on infectious diseases, specifically of the lungs, and that you're davening this? So he said, sure, I'm happy to do it. And he made a wonderful caveat. He said, I will do it as long as you allow me also to have a student from my freshman English literature course also participate, because she's one of the best writers that I've ever met. So I said, you are on, my man. And so the project has been growing. I asked Sharon, in fact, if she would write a reflection on teaching this course during this time of pandemic. I'd love for that to be a part of the pieces that we launch with when we unveil the website. We're going to start with a concert on June 8th, which is a Monday. What I've learned is that concerts these days, including tributes to Sondheim, are not actually live. So we are having folks from around the world now, from Ireland, from Israel, from Syria, from the Jews of Abu Dhabi through Professor Jeff Summit, are all going to record 3-minute versions. Jacob, we're going to work you in somewhere. I don't know where yet, but I love it. So get ready. And then we're going to launch the website that same evening. Every week we'll focus on a different psalm. So we're going to move at a little bit of a faster clip than this group, and certainly faster than I usually teach them too, I must admit. We'll begin with Psalm 23 because it has become an American anthem. And so that week, just to give you a taste of what we have coming, Rabbi Sharon Brous and Reverend Brian McLaren, who's a leading evangelical liberal thinker from the emerging church movement, are going to do a dialogue on Psalm 23. And I'm just asking them, when did you first hear this psalm? When did you first pray it? What are the words or the images that have touched your heart in the past? And what does it mean right now? In what ways is it helpful to you, and in what ways might it be helpful to other people? Marilyn Nelson, who is the former poet laureate of the state of Connecticut, an older African-American writer, she's also written many children's books, wrote her own version of Psalm 23. You know, it's quite beautiful. And it was wonderful too, because of the opportunity to share with her a series of resources. She said, of course I know the Psalm, but I don't really know the Psalm. Could you send me essentially some Torah to study? So, you know, the rabbinic nerd in me was thrilled. So I sent her a translation by Robert Alter and by Richard Levy. And I sent her, you know, interpretations of Psalms by Marcia Falk and so forth and so on. And she came up with this beautiful, beautiful piece and wrote a little explanation about why she made the changes she did, what it reminded of her, you know, where it took her in her spiritual imagination, etc. So that's the project. We're going to have an 18-week horizon, speaking of good Jewish numbers. My partner in this effort is not Jewish, the Reverend Paul Rauschenbusch, who created the religion page for the Huffington Post. He now works at the Interfaith Youth Corps in Chicago. And he said, pick a good Jewish number. And so I said, I think 18 is the right one in this case, because what we are all hoping and longing for is life. Life and vitality, and a return not to normalcy, but to a deepened engagement with the broader world. So that is the project. The Interfaith Youth Corps, by the way, is the largest interfaith organization in the United States, and I'm so thrilled that they're a partner, in part because they deal with youth, and I'd love for younger people to find their way into these conversations, and to understand that these texts are not dusty old remnants, you know, from a bygone time, but can actually speak to us today, including, as Sharon shared with me, you know, Psalms of lament, Psalms of protest. The psalmist models for us, as Ellen said in her introduction, that we don't need to be nice in our interactions with God or the divine or ultimacy, or in our agnosticism or atheism. So, you know, what will happen, for example, when Sharon Salzberg, who grew up as a Jew, but is a leading American Buddhist teacher, you know, with Psalm 22. You know, I'm waiting, you know, to hear what she'll do with it. I am inviting people other than with the name Sharon into the project. But anyhow, that's a thumbnail sketch. It's not like I have any other work to do. My schedule is wide open. So I decided, what's another project? Why not? But this one just called to me out of the depths, if I can, you know, borrow that expression in this context. So I've said more than enough. I'd love to hear from some of you, many of you, what this all means to you. By the way, we're going to create a feature on the website where, in addition to the machers and the bigwigs that we've invited, we also want people to upload things that they're creating. We really want this to be a communal project. And I can tell you already, based on a couple of things that people have shared with me from folks that I didn't know, that material is just as precious or more so than anything that's being curated professionally. So I'll be quiet. I'll listen. I'll lurk for a little bit. And then I have to make about 12 other calls or Zoom meetings like this morning as we try and launch very quickly. Rabbi,
fantastic.
I just want to say thank you, not only for engaging in this project, but you've been a shero of mine for many, many years. You know, your work in times good and painful is exemplary. And the fact that we share in common a dear friend who is also my boss makes that kesher even stronger. And Jacob, I was serious. That wasn't just a flip comment. I really would love to feature your work. You know, and folks in Kentucky and Missouri and Dublin and Jerusalem are in for a treat.
Thank you so much. And we share something else. You know, Paula Hyman was the most important teacher I had as an undergraduate, and she really transformed me on, you know, 1,000 ways, so that's another deep connection to your family.
Yes, thank you.
So,
and by the way, Ayelet Cohen, who's a close friend of Judas, was a CBSC rabbi for 10 years. So there are many, many where we have a lot of different connections here. So I think, Harold, it would be nice if people would raise their hands. I think it would be, the dogs keep coming out. I apologize. I will slam this door
I
shut.
will recognize Stephen, unmute yourself, but Rabbi, we have an email list for the class with 130 people in it, and we already have a dozen comments here. Please keep us updated about the concert, the website, etc. So
And we will do that. And I'm going to ask people to try and, oh, sorry, Harold. As people speak now, so Or can hear a little bit of the range of who we are. And we have people here from all different kinds of backgrounds, and not all Jewish, as you saw, not all CBST members, not all in New York City. But try and be brief, but so that we can get as many voices in quickly so Or can hear a little bit about it. And we will update everybody. And by the way, Or, we've done a couple of concerts at CBST over time exploring Psalms. We do an annual concert each year, and we actually have a CD of we did a Psalms concert. We've done it twice. Once it was called Some Enchanted Evening. Get it? Some Enchanted Evening. And the other was about 10 years ago, or maybe even more than that. So we real Psalms are very important at CBST. All right, so Harold, I'll let you call on people as you can see hand.
Stephen.
Okay, so I just wanted to say briefly, nice to meet you, first of all, that for me, the most surprising thing about studying the Psalms and writing the Psalms is that, you know, I had heard so many times novelists say, oh, you know, that novel wrote itself, that it sort of came out of me, but it wasn't me. And I know when I wrote my Psalm on Lamanatseach, on Psalm 4, that it flowed out of me, but it was almost cathartic, that when I look at it, I know that every moment and every, you know, beat of energy is from me internally, but it's almost as if I didn't write it. It wrote itself, which was the most surprising thing to me.
So, Or, you should know what we do is we study the Psalm first in Hebrew, and then I do basic breakdown of Hebrew, and we look at some of the grammar issues. Not every, so, but on not a totally deep level, but on a pretty sophisticated level. And then we've been looking at Robert Alter, Norman Fisher, Richard Levy, and we just started with Gaia Bernstein, who's an Orthodox, so that, and I think that covers.
I'm talking to her today.
Oh, you are? And there was one other translation we've been using, Stephen Mitchell.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
But he's only on a few Psalms, so we haven't really looked.
Right.
So we look at a lot of different, okay.
Megan.
And then when we have finished all that, people are writing their own. And that started out as a very little trickle of Psalms, and now we're going to do a self-published something at CBST just on the first 5 Psalms. We have such spectacular writing, and not just writing, as you heard, music. And we have some visual artists who have drawn or not draw, have created some visual pieces of art based on the Psalms. So we have quite a multimedia response to it.
Awesome.
And some people in the class are writers, and some people in the class have never written a poem before in their life. And it's just fantastic, the range.
I'm going to make one other recommendation in terms of your translation swamp. Eugene Peterson, who is a deceased evangelical Canadian and American teacher and scholar, wrote a translation called The Message. And it is very punchy, and some of it offended me as a good liberal Jew and rabbi, and other pieces in it are spectacular.
Okay, great. I'll look at it.
And one interesting connection is that he then spent significant time teaching Bono of U2 the Psalms. And if you're a fan of U2, which I happen to be, I grew up on that music, several of their songs are inspired by it, including a song that's simply called 40. But it's a really interesting translation, and like the original psalmists, he'll piss you off, but he'll also inspire.
Yeah, great.
Juhi would like to introduce herself. Juhi, can you mute yourself?
Sure. Good morning, all. I am visiting the Psalm class this week. I am actually a Muslim sister. I've met Harold through a program called Scriptural Reasoning, which is an interfaith program where we discuss the Bible, Torah, and the Quran. Harold invited me and let me know about this, and I had some time off this week, so I thought, why not? Let me do it. I attended yesterday morning session, and I wasn't expecting to be so blown away by everyone's work. And I'm fasting this week for Ramadan, and I've also decided stupidly to take on home improvement projects while I'm fasting on my week off. So yesterday's session was like a caffeine shot for me before I started working. It was really, really beautiful. So I'm really looking
Wow.
forward to this week's.
Beautiful. Love having you with us.
Megan?
Hi, I'm Megan. I'm a CBST member and a Jew by choice through my son and his other mom. And for me, one thing that's been really interesting about this is that I came to the Psalms on my own, and it's a book that I keep by my bed over the years, and in times of pain or whatever. And it's just been it's been interesting to study it as a group and to be reminded that the whole world reads these, not everyone, but a lot of people in the world, and find meaning in it as well, and find their own interpretations in it. And then just learning from Rabbi Kleinbaum about how all the different layers of translation and punctuation that's been added over the millennia, it's really opened up. I mean, to me, it just seems totally nuts sometimes. Like, you have no idea what the original meaning was. So it's, in a way, it's opened up so much more space for me to really find my own meaning. And then when I write my own personal Psalms, I'm like, I kind of feel like I could do whatever I want, because it's so bananas, the fact that the history of how these Psalms were created, and how little we know. And I just, I'm a professional writer, and I have to say the Psalms that I've seen that people written in this class, I've really been blown away. And I'm not just saying that. I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it. They're so meaningful and so well written. So that's all. Thanks.
Hillary?
Well, I'd like to hear also if there's some people want to reflect on what it's been like to do it this way during this time, how that's been in your lives, the role that this class has been just on this 4 days a week, every morning for the last eight, this is the 8th or 9th week we're doing this.
Hillary has her hand up, and maybe she can reflect on what it's meant to her in her life this past 2 months. Hillary, unmute yourself, Hillary. Great.
Hi. So my name's Hillary Nudell. I'm a CBST member and a yoga teacher, a Jubu also. But I had never read the Psalms before, and there was actually one particular one I like, but which is one of the songs of ascent, but I had never really penetrated the Psalms before. It always felt like something I couldn't understand, and this has just been a wonderful window that's been opened for me. But not only that, as a kind of a shy, reticent human being who is very reluctant to start relationships and talk to people, and I have this deep fear of authority figures, and I hardly ever talk to people in positions of authority, which Rabbi Kleinbaum can probably attest to. It has been like a new way to have to be in community, to open our hearts. It's feels so much more real to me. And the most remarkable thing, I think, is that, I started out the course being kind of self-involved in my own writing and renditions. But then when I kind of got a little blocked and didn't feel like sharing, I was like, it's almost like everyone's Psalms that they've written, it's just as meaningful as my own Psalms that I've written. It's like opening my heart and just bringing it all in. It couldn't be more of a connecting, real experience. And I'm just so grateful for it.
Wow. Yael Bachava?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi. So I'm Yael Bat Chava. I'm a very long time CBST member. Grew up in Israel, very secular, and never wrote a poem in my life until a couple of weeks ago in response to everybody's writing for Psalm 4, which just like Stephen was saying earlier, it just wrote itself. I woke up with it one morning. It was just in my head. And this class at this time really grounds me. If there are days that I cannot attend because I have a meeting at work in the morning, it feels like there's something missing. So it just, I cannot really describe how this affects me because I don't consider myself a religious person, but the psalm that I wrote was about what comforts me, and it's not God, but it's everything else, including this community, including prayer, including studying, and it really just grounds me at these times. So I'm very grateful to have this class.
Sol Zalkin?
So I joined the class in its second week as something to do. I had looked at Psalms in my life and I figured, okay, let's see what's happening. And I never realized how meaningful the Psalms are, and we're only up to Psalm 5, that this particular Psalm spoke to me personally with great anger. This was my life. What the psalmist wrote was my life. And reading some of the interpretations that people wrote, created of their own psalms, I said, that's me. This is my community, and they feel the same as I do. And that's what this class means to me.
Wow. Merit.
Hi, everybody. I too joined the class kind of as a diversion. I'm shouldering a bunch of aging parent responsibility now, a bunch of other stuff. And I just wanted, take me away, Rabbi. And I came in with an expectation, a high expectation for Rabbi Kleinbaum's erudition, and I was looking forward to that and not looking forward to everybody sharing stuff and just, give me the real stuff. And I discovered in Psalm 4, creative people talk about being in the flow. I would say whatever I've accomplished, I haven't been in that creative flow for over 20 years. And when I wrote my Psalm 4, I worked on it, I edited it, it came out of me. I was in the flow, I couldn't believe it. And then I couldn't believe that I shared it. I was not expecting the opening of the heart and the sharing and the release that comes from that. And I will also say that this class, as a result of this class, I have deepened a relationship with a person in this class, and it's like when you live in a little New York apartment and then it turns out you have a room that you didn't even know you had, and you have this other room. And it's through the Psalms class that I discovered this door to this other person. And that's like, I have another room in my apartment.
Beautiful.
So that's it.
That's beautiful. So let's take a couple more and then let's see if we can do a couple of Psalms before, personal Psalms. And our goal this week, folks, by the way, is to finish Psalm 5. And Harold has a presentation he's going to make on Thursday as part of the class also about the Septuagint. Remember, we've talked about the Septuagint, we've talked about the Dead Sea Scrolls. So we're trying to get a little bit, and we've talked about the Aleppo Codex. Listen, or we've done the Aleppo, we've done Leningrad, a little, kind of touching on all these things that fill in the gap. And next week, I'll do a session on the Psalms in prayer. I know a lot of people had some questions also about kind of the canonization of the prayer service. So I'll sprinkle that through next week as well. But So let's have one more. How do we have one or two more, and then let's do a psalm or two.
Stand up, Kent Benimi.
Yes, I just as a clergy who is not a clergy of this community but is a congregant, this has been meaningful to me on so many levels. I became a member of CBST while I was in seminary still at HUC, and stayed connected after I was ordained, and even now that I have my own full-time pulpit. And especially because I've been in my first year of my pulpit, I kind of had some distance because of how busy things got for me, and how challenging it was to leave New York and all those other things. So to reconnect with the community in this way has been profoundly meaningful on a number of levels, personally, and then just because of the people who are here. And then the content of the class has been spiritually meaningful for me, giving me some nourishment in the work that I'm doing. It happens to be because I'm an hour earlier. It's before all of my meetings, which is great. It really kind of sets me up for the day in a way that I find really helpful. And then it's also activated my creative self. You know, usually I don't have any creative output when I'm in times of stress. All of my compositions would usually happen in the summer. And so it's actually pretty remarkable that I've written anything during this time. And it speaks to just how inspiring and moving this class has been.
And you should know, Jacob is a real, as you saw from the piece he started this class with, a very, very talented composer. This didn't just pop up out of, this wasn't his, and he's a really talented composer with many, many really beautiful, beautiful pieces. But I really feel like this can be an anthem for this pandemic, a Jewish anthem for this pandemic. And we have an active participant who's from Bulgaria. Darina is not Jewish, and she calls in from Bulgaria every single day and is one of our very active participants. Who else is from a distance? Who's not in New York? Jacob's in Madison.
Leah's in Nice.
All right, Lena, is Lena on today?
I don't know if she's here today. And
She's
then
here.
She's in Mexico. We've had a number of different places.
Yeah.
This is
all right. How about you go ahead?
So I'm going to recognize Sherry, and Sherry actually is the next reading that we're going to do. So Sherry, if you could comment briefly and then read us through your offering, that would be terrific.
Sure. Well, I wanted to say, much like Jacob Nimi, that this class at this time has transformed me in so many levels. It's given me comfort. It's an anchor during these times, and it's raised my understanding and sense of intimacy with our community, and the knowledge that, Harold, you have, as well as Yael and the Rabbi. It's an amazing experience. And I'm a published poet, so it's also unleashed my love of language, and perhaps I should just read my poem.
All right, here you are.
Okay, here I am, and I can comment for a moment or two afterwards, but I just want to say that I followed the arc of the psalm this time, but my journey is very different from the psalmist, I think, and I think I might be asking a different question. Finding faith after Psalm 5. Listen, my flute song trills high, then dips toward your horizon. Your ear, a conch shell, the ocean within. I cry for you, waves crashing. At night, exhausted, my calls ebb, rain after a storm. Hear me. Thunder bellows, blackens the sky, winds thrash trees, topple my house. I shout, hear only infants wailing, abandoned. Dawn rustles, dispels these dreams. I listen. Silence. Perhaps a gull. Hope rises with the morning. Sweep the floors, sweep out wickedness. Beneath the bed, evil be gone. Scrub the walls of lies, deceit, malice, murderous thoughts. Shove slippery tongues down the grave of an open throat. Then, path straight before me. May I enter your hearth? Will you shield me? will I hear you?
Sherry, do you want to say a little bit more about in what ways you felt like you echoed the arc of the psalmist, and in what ways you diverge?
Well, very technically, I echoed a lot of the imagery in the same chronology as the psalmist, the flute, the preamble, basically. And Hiloch is thought to be perhaps a hold instrument. And give ear to my speech, the idea of conch, a conch shell, and the idea that you have to take an act, to reach, to call out to God or the infinite. And you have to make an act, put the conch shell up to your ear in order to hear the ocean or the infinite. And then in the third verse, I cry for you, hear the sound of my cry, and I use the imagery of sound throughout the first part, with the waves crashing, and the way I call with crashing waves, or rain after a storm, and my nightmare with thunders bellowing. And then in the fourth verse, daybreak, for me, darkness and light, very much a part of this, and that you start from very early morning, and you throughout the day, throughout the night, even into your dreams, reaching out, calling out, pleading. So that's, I say, dawn rustles. Dawn actually wakes you up, and instead of waiting for the answer, I guess dawn also brings hope for me. The idea of the house that you mentioned, that is mentioned in here, and entering the house, for me, the idea of a house, my own personal house, and how do you scrubbing the floors, especially now with COVID, that everything's scrubbing, and my arc may change, because I think you have to scrub the world, scrub your house of all of these awful, evil things before you can even see the infinite, before you can even ask to enter the infinite's house. And for me, the warmth and the light of the hearth in the house. And so that's 5 through 8, I guess. And the fulcrum is that idea of having the house cleansed, and then seeing the straight path. And at the end, for most people, they see, they hear, they have the comfort. And for me, I don't even know, the idea of listening and hearing is a two-way street, the infinite and me. And I don't even know if I'd hear it if I heard it.
Uh-huh.
So
Wow.
if I might give one of our visual offerings, share one of them with Rabbi Rose before we're sung out, if that's okay, because that is also an important part.
Okay, I would just, I would also just like to hear the rabbi just for a moment.
Yeah, I was deeply moved by this, Sherry, and I'm surprised that you said, surprised me that you said that you came to a different conclusion than the psalmist. That I thought was very interesting, because I found it to be a deepening of what the psalmist was saying, and a reflection of that arc. And maybe it's what I read into it too. So maybe I have the same lens that you do, but I loved it. And I think that you're actually, so that's very meaningful to me. Beautiful, beautiful. And I love the way you use the music. And I found it very interesting how different folks have integrated that into the psalm, even without the solution. And some people do say that it is a flute. Some say it's a wind instrument, some say it's a flute, and some say we have no idea what it is.
Yeah, and
of course, and for your family, how wonderful that it's a flute, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
For those who don't know, Simon is a flutist or flautist. I'm not sure what the correct pronunciation is of this.
Well, we're in the United States, so it's flutist. If you're in
Italy,
really? Flautist.
Ah, I didn't know that difference. Thank you so much.
So, Dean, we only have a minute, but if you can just speak very briefly about this, your piece responding to Psalm 5.
Sure. if you can all see this, this is a huge fire escape across a wooden panel, and the tension is always between, the wood and the fire, and, greater forces. So that I find, I find religious language extraordinarily important for these times. That's just me and how I respond. And I have responded to the possibility that David wrote this psalm. And so if you look to the little match that is sort of in the center and off to a little bit to the right, that his body has taken on the conflict and the storms that have brought death and more or less harm, and in that he is in that, he's in a shield, a slight shield on the field of protection. And so I'll let you guys imagine it from there, but you can see the various, every one of these matches is an individual, yet it's collective. And then there's larger forces beyond that. And if I can just briefly say one thing I brought to the song class, I had a foreboding sense of this coronavirus months ago. I have been very privately upset about 1 billion animals burning to death in Australia from our excesses. And I feel that in the infinite, if they hear our, if the Almighty hears our cry, he must have heard 1 billion animals burned to death and millions of trees. So I think, there's a reckoning, and I'm so indebted to this class and for all of your contributions. Thank you.
And Dean, that adds a whole level of seeing your burning pieces that you've shared with us. So thank you so much. Thank you. So we will sing, Cantor Jacob Nemi will sing us out. And thank you, Rabbi Or Rose, for joining us. And we're eager to see how your project develops. And we will, I bet this group will be very passionate followers of the project when it begins on June 8th. I bet most of us will be signing up and signing in and watching it very closely.
Wonderful.
I don't want you to give away too much about Psalm 23, though, but I guess, I'll have to let that go.
Thank you so much. I'm deeply moved by what I heard and what I saw. And if I had any doubts about this project, they're completely erased.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'll say is, as a rabbi and as a scholar, I can become myopic. That is, I know my own world of Hebrew college, and then I do, guest appearances in synagogues and churches and so forth. But to be able just to dip into the lushness, the richness, the love and care and compassion of this amazing community reminds me again that I'm not alone, that we are not alone, and that there are good people in all corners of the earth just struggling to make sense and meaning and care for themselves and for others. So thank you for being so humane.
And give my love to Dan Judson, who was also an intern at CBST.
I will. I'll go through the whole litany.
Yes. All right, Jacob.
So we'll sing out once more with "Lay Me Down in Peace." All right. Well, while we're bringing up the text, I'll just say I have written, by the way, settings of other psalm texts, but it'll take a while for us to get to them. The next one that I actually have already written is of Stephen Mitchell's translation from Psalm 51. So we've got some time before we get there. We'll see how long it takes. Lay me down in peace. Lay me down in wholeness. For you alone, oh God, keep me safe from harm. Lay me down in trust, lay me down in faithfulness, and let me not forget that you are with me. Koli el Adonai akra, vaya aneni mehar kodsho. Koli el Adonai akra, vaya aneni down in peace. Lay me down in wholeness. For you alone, oh God, keep me safe from harm. Lay me down in trust. Lay me down in faithfulness. Let me not forget that you are with me. Lay me down tonight, but don't lay me down alone. And when I call out, will you answer? Koli el Adonai ekra, vaya'aneni mehar kodsho. Koli el Adonai ekra, vaya'aneni mehar kodsho. Lay me down in love, lay me down in gratitude for all that I still have and all that's yet to be. Lay me down in grace, lay me down in glory, and raise me up again for a new day. Holy El Adonai ekra, vaya'aneni mehar kodsho. Holy El Adonai ekra, vaya'aneni mehar kodsho. Holy El Adonai ekra, vaya'aneni mehar kodsho. Koli el Adonai ekra, vaya'aneni mehar kodsho.
Thank you, everyone. And remember, if you have more writings about Psalm 5 or any of them, to put them on the CBST Psalms class Facebook page today, and make sure you get them to Harold in email. And I'm going to add something to what everybody said. You know, this week is a vacation week for me, and I could not be teaching this class. That's how important it has become to me. We're not going to have class on Monday because I'm trying to model for the other staff of CBST to really not work that day. So I thought it would be hard for me to tell everybody to stay off of CBST stuff if I was actually teaching. So I want you all to be studying Psalms on Monday, even though we won't officially have class. And I'll look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow as we wind up Psalm 5. We're coming to the end of Psalm 5 for this round. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you, Rabbi Or Rose. Love to everybody at Boston Hebrew College.